I wanted to put together a quick follow-up video on how I use some of my flint and steel, some of my equipment here to make fire using 18th century technology. So I'm going to go through my fire kit, and we're actually going to make some char cloth and some char punk. Now I apologize for any of the background noise. I am filming in my backyard, and I'm also trying out a couple different things just to see if I can improve my videography and get some information out. First things first, I've got to get a fire going. And so to do that first fire here, I'm going to use my standard flint and steel set. Now I keep it in this small hot dipped tin snuff box, the original of which was located at Fort Loudon, Tennessee. So it's going to be from a French and Indian War time frame. But it's the perfect size. I keep in it this small steel. This is made by Ken Hamilton, and this particular small steel is perfect. They were located in numerous archaeological sites, and it's like just a small, good, thin steel that fits in this case. Now for the flint, I'm going to use a used English gun flint. So this is a tiny gun flint, came out from my rifle when I was done using it. And I'm going to use a piece of char cloth and some tow, and let's see if we can get our first fire going. The way I hold the flint and char cloth is like this, right? I pinch it between my fingers, being careful not to hit my fingers with the steel. And I actually take the char cloth and I put it over the blade. I fold it over the blade a little bit, and it is going to tear. That's what I want. I want it to tear a little bit because those small fibrous pieces are quicker to take the spark. And I hold the flint up at an angle like this. So when I hit it with the steel, I'm hitting in and coming off of it, in and down. And I try to choose the sharpest part of the flint that I can. So let's see how this works. Okay, first strike. I have char ignited, and I'm going to put it inside this tow right here. All right, now if I leave this alone, we'll see it's just going to start smoking all by itself. But I'm going to give it just a little bit of oxygen here and try to get it lit. The next important thing is to make sure I have my material ready over here for the fire itself. And I am going to use some of this fat wood. Fat wood, some people call it light or not. It's basically the heart of a fallen pine tree that I've cut, collected, and split into small pieces. And the pine sap that's in it is going to ignite pretty quickly. As a matter of fact, there's an account of colonists using these as candles set up in the corner of their fireplace, because it does produce a pretty black, tarry smoke, which I wouldn't mind right now because the mosquitoes are driving me nuts. In 1642, historian William Wood wrote that, quote, "Out of these pines is gotten the candlewood that is much spoke of, which may serve as a shift among poor folks, but I cannot commend it for singular good, because it droppeth a pitchy kind of substance where it stands." Okay, let's see if we can get this thing into flame. You can see just a little bit of air in there is creating a substantial amount of heat, but it doesn't mean we'll get flame yet. There we go. Okay, that didn't take long at all. A single strike on the flint and steel with the char cloth, a little bit of air blown into the tow as a tinder, and then this fat pine, and that's it. My fire's going pretty strongly. Now it's rained here the past couple of days, so everything's been pretty wet. By gathering the materials ahead of time, having my tinder, my smaller pieces, everything already set, and then being ready, it took literally one strike from the steel on that English gun flint. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to use this small tin box. This is a Ted Cash steel, I think they call it a tobacco box. I'm going to use this. You can see it has no hole anywhere in it, And I'm going to use this. This is beech wood that's become punk, so there's some spring to it. It's a little spongy. You might be able to see here a little bit of the fibers in the beech wood. So I'm going to tear off some pieces here and set it inside this tin. I'm going to try to keep it all together as much as I can in pieces, and I don't want to overload the tin too much because it does take, there needs to be a little bit of space in there. All right, and so next thing I'm going to do is when I get it filled up, I'm going to close this box up and I'm going to put it in the fire. I'm not going to close it all the way. I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap for the gases to escape, and when the gases stop emitting from this container in the fire, then I'm going to pull it out, let it cool, and we'll see what we got. All right, the box has cooled off now enough to handle and open, and when I open it up and look inside, you'll see the charred beech wood in here. Now, lighting punk wood with flint and steel is a little bit different than char cloth, because obviously if I take this out and put it on the flint, then it's just going to fall apart into dust. So I'm going to actually use the container in order to start the fire. Now, in order to do that, I have to change a couple of things in my technique. Instead of holding the steel in my right hand and the flint in my left hand, I'm right-handed, and striking down like this, I'm going to reverse them and place the steel in my left hand and actually hold the steel in place while I strike down with the flint. And there we go. It took 2 sparks. It's already going right there. Yep, it was actually 2 sparks, and you can see it already starting to burn. Now, I don't want to burn this because I just spent so much time making it. So what I'm going to do is simply close the lid and deprive it of oxygen to let it go out, and it's ready for next time. That's working so well. While I've got the fire going, I'm going to make some more. So the next thing I'm going to throw in here is some linen, and this linen is cut up into small squares, and I'm just going to put it inside the box with a loose fitting lid, and we're going to set it right in the fire, and we're going to see how that turns out as well. Now this tin is now cool enough, so I'm going to open it up and take a look at the linen inside, and it looks pretty good to me. It's nice and thin. It's the carbonized version of its former self, and it's pretty brittle in my hands, but the true test is going to be how it takes a spark. So I am going to use my traditional method here. Find a good sharp piece on the stone, and right there looks good. Put it over the edge like so, allowing those little fibers to stick out. Now let's see what I can get. Okay, there it is. Took only just a couple of strikes, and this char cloth is good to go. Using the burning glass has been a little elusive today, and I apologize for any lighting issues with the camera, but we've got to be in the sunlight in order to use this. Now I'm going to try to adjust the angle of this to match the sun, and I'm going to see if I can light this piece of punk wood right here while we've got enough sunlight to do it. So there it is, just a little bit of effort with the burning glass. All I really had to do was hold still to get this small piece of punk wood, charred punk wood lit, and I can put this in tinder now to make the rest of the fire. So there's our 3 methods, flint and steel with char cloth, flint and steel with punk wood, and a burning glass to make fire using 18th century technology. The only one we didn't do was friction fire, and that is because I am only successful, as one commenter so aptly put, at making blisters with that method. Man, I love these little tiny trips back in time right here in suburbia, being able to make some char cloth, some charred punk, and being able to make some fire with those, so I know they work. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you all taking these trips with me back into time as I chase these 18th century rabbits all the way to the bottom of their holes. We'll see you next time on the Deerskin Diary.